Lastly, but certainly not least, are the soft skills. So these are things that you don't necessarily need. You couldn't really define them as necessary for a musician per se. I think you could do a reasonable job and get by without all these things. But I think they're what I think, or sorry, they're what are important to me as a composer and as a musician. And I think they're what will make me great at what I do versus good. Um, so the first thing I decided when I was a little kid was that I should be good at everything. Um, why? So I think this. I'll talk a lot more about this when it comes to like the emotional slash complicated side of doing everything I want to do. But being good at everything gives you insight. It gives you understanding. I think if you're willing to pursue what other people pursue, long enough and hard enough, um, you get to understand why they do it. You know, if you hit that fadeaway shot in basketball, or you break a board in martial arts, or you write an A paper, or you solve a math formula, or you write a computer program, or you run 5 kilometers. Um, everyone does things for a reason and they get something out of it. And I think I'm really fortunate to have had the opportunity to pursue so many different things and understand the motivation and passions of different people. And I think that's what lets me write music to describe their situation and their feelings, because I'm just so flexible that way. I'm so used to exploring what other people feel, and that's where it ties into to empathy. I think as a composer, to write someone's soundtrack is a big honor, to be able to ride shotgun with someone else's feelings, and to have them trust you with their scene, and to write music that leads people to feel what they should be feeling at that moment. Anyways, that's definitely getting into that like complicated side. So let's move on. Having a strong sense of memory. I don't know if this is something that comes genetically or you're born with it or blah blah blah, but remembering to me is super important. Um, I've been through a lot of experiences, or at least, well, I don't know, I'm 25, so maybe not that many experiences, but the ones you do get, you need to remember and get something out of, hopefully, that will add to your music. Um, I'm sure I could say more about memory, but we'll just leave that one. This is super long already. Then there's idealism and romanticism. I don't know why I wrote that one in there because it definitely gets into the complicated side, but I guess being able to aspire for things that are difficult and not necessarily reachable is important. I don't want to write boring music. I don't want to. Like, to me, being original is really important, but also respecting foundation and rules in some ways is also something in my music that I don't want to forget. Um, but I guess being someone who can believe something, and someone, I guess the word romanticism, I mean more like that's the idea of, like, if you look up the technical term for the word, it's the idea of being illogical. And as much as people see me as this kind of intellectual kind of guy, I've totally always had this fascination with things that can't really be explained. You just kind of feel it, but there's no, like, smart people would say, why do you believe in such a thing? And um, I think that's probably one of the most important parts of me, is that despite my intellectual side, um, I don't require an explanation for everything, and that lets me believe some pretty important things. Last part of this box, I guess, self-belief. It's weird. I mean, as much as there's this huge, inevitable, unavoidable layer of me that has always doubted myself, and that's stood in my way, part of me has known I could always do this. Um, And that's in a way a scary thought, but it's also a reassuring thought. It's very much a definition of my struggle is that I can't help but believe in myself. I don't know why. I mean, there's so many things that I'm tangibly good at, but why do I choose to pursue? I mean, do I know absolutely for sure? Is there proof that I'm a good composer? No. There's nothing really there to say that yet. Um, so why am I willing to throw all my eggs and all my eggs and beliefs into this one basket? Why am I willing to take such a huge risk on myself in something so unknown? And I don't know. I mean, I'm really just taking a bet on myself, but it doesn't. I mean, part of it feels like a risk, but not really. I just know I'll be good at it. I mean, I guess it comes with being able to evaluate potential. Um, I've taken on so many new activities. It's kind of like once you've played 10 sports and you get to the 11th sport, and they're like, the objective in this sport is to kick a ball into a net. You're not allowed to touch it with your hands. And then, I don't know, you just kind of get a feeling. You're like, well, yeah, I'd probably be pretty good at that. And I guess when it comes to composing music and I look at my skill set and how I would do it, I'm like, you know, right, reminds me of a line from a TV show. It's actually the villain who asks, have you ever had anything in your life where you were pretty sure you were better at it than almost anyone else? And I don't know, I always listen to music in movies and games. It's like all I do. And I think I'm going to be really good at it. I think I could very easily be, well, I don't know. Saying the words one of the best is dumb. Like, it's music, it's totally subjective. But I'm just saying, I think I'm kind of going to be a big thing. Um, so silly. So lastly, we have integrity, super important. I think this is, if anything doesn't get compromised, I mean, ironically, integrity compromised. On this list, it has to be integrity. I think, I think being able to write good soundtrack is, and this gets into the complicated side again, it's a huge amount of power to be able to influence how people see things and what they feel. Um, and I always want to make sure that I'm doing it for the right reasons, and I'm doing it for the music and for the scene and saying the right things. Um, and that I don't let things affect me that shouldn't affect me, like money or fame or even self-doubt. I need to trust myself and know that I'll go the right way um, without compromising. Okay, moving on. This is less complicated. Inspiration. Pretty hard to come by. Takes a lot of work to find someone you can look up to who really makes you want to write something. I think, I don't know, I mean, really, when I was 5 years old and my mother offered me pretty much the opportunity to do anything, and I didn't turn down a single opportunity, and I pretty much did everything, I wasn't a dumb kid. I knew that doing way too much was going to make me really unhappy, and that was simply a burden I was willing to accept. Um, I guess because I knew it would be worth it someday. Um, but, you know, when I talked about empathy and I talked about the joy of hitting a fadeaway basketball shot or kicking a soccer ball into a net or solving a math problem, um, I guess to that end, we'll talk about later is all those things feel really great, but they're not me. And in the end, music was important to me such that I didn't want it to be an escape like everything else.